If you are a returning viewer, then it will not surprise you that our search for peace and balance will begin with the wisdom of the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. According to philosophical yin and yang, as opposed to medical yin and yang, philosophical yang, it's all about patriarchy, it's all about ego, it's all about being rigid, fearful, controlling. Oopsie, I want to develop the habit of doing this. It's all about being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Now, Yang is a very dynamic path. It can take you many places, but peace and balance are not one of them. Just as way back in the 70s, Stevie Wonder saying superstition ain't the way, any self-respecting neuroscientist would tell you concentration ain't the way. Concentration will light up the amygdala at the bottom of our brain, the seat of fear and aggression. Once again, concentration will undercut any attempts at balance or peace. So instead of using yang, instead of using concentration, might I suggest, and this is pretty predictable at this point, that you traverse the path of yin, the path of being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and you guessed it, kind. This is the path. It isn't the path because some celestial figure with a stone tablet commanded it so. This is it because this is the only path that works, that has been observed to work. So when it comes to just, it's been said that success leaves clues. And if we study the most peaceful, genuinely peaceful people, the greatest luminaries humanity has to offer us, we'll find that their peace is deeply rooted in these attributes. It's kind of like a plant. You can grow a plant in fertile, microbially active soil. You can't grow it with the absence of those things. And I'm sure there's a botanist who can find an exception, but 9 times out of 10, I think you'll agree with me. You're not going to be able to grow a crop of wheat on Congolium or linoleum. What we want to do is perform practices that will not only prevent the amygdala from lighting up, but cause the anterior cingulate gyrus to open up, the seat of empathy, the veritable hub of our mirror neurons. fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies, have shown that the best method to cause this to happen is the union of mindfulness and meditation. But that union has to be supported by our lifestyle choices. Even so, as a child, I thought I was a night owl. But people like me who identify as night owls don't have the physiology of a true nocturnal beastie. We cannot see in the dark like a doggy or a kitty. We have the physiology of a diurnal beastie. Even though we might prefer to get up after sunset rather than before sunset, we are still wired to be relatively diurnal. We need sleep. We need to consume healthy foods that our bodies have evolved to optimize for. A whole food vegan diet is an excellent resource. There are plenty of channels here on YouTube that can really help you out with that. I recommend nutritionfacts.org. That's a great free website here on YouTube. And I recommend Mike the Vegan, excellent. Those are two excellent channels here on YouTube. Everything they promote is free. All their information is free. There are no paywalls. That's a great way to start. Fresh air, sunshine, exercise, these are all important for our overall bodies to enjoy the health, to support a healthy brain. Since peace is a function of a healthy working brain, we gotta support that. But now you've come to this channel for instructions on meditation and mindfulness. So let's get it on. Did I mention plenty of water? We begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which is ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord and which has evolved not for active concentration, but instead to merely perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. I really must make a graphic for that. Think of it this way. Let us consider the 12-syllable exercise, the inhalations 12-syllable exercise. This is not an affirmation. An affirmation is a pretty lie we tell ourselves, hoping it will become the truth. Keep on hoping. This is simply a statement of fact. As we breathe in, we are already wired to perceive this very turbulent play of mind. Notice there's no judgment here. We're not calling it a monkey mind. We're not saying it throws guano at passers-by. Our mind is playful. What are some of the antics of mind? And by the way, this is not a flaw. This is a feature. We evolved this attribute to improve the odds of our survival. So what are some of the antics of mind? Mind sees, hears, feels, tastes, smells, and the like. Internally, mind emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. These things are not our enemy. These things serve our meditation. Think of it this way. Ensconced within every dam, every man-made dam, I'm not talking about the ones created by beavers, but every man-made dam has channels where water passes, a certain amount of water passes through the dam, and on the way through the dam, it spins the turbine of a dynamo, of a generator. Similarly, these perceptions, these functions make possible the experience of peace. It is as if they turn the wheels and gears of the meditation machine. But life isn't just about inhalation. We got to exhale. And every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we access our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the lumbar region of our spinal cord, as well as the cervical region. It has evolved for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Consider, if you will, the 12-syllable exercise, exhalation's 12-syllable exercise, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. So allow me to alleviate any stress you may be experiencing. It's not our job to superstitiously and rigidly believe that our mind is literally non-graspable. It's not our job to pseudo-intellectually strive to prove to ourselves and others the mind is literally non-graspable. Way back in the 4th grade, we should have been taught that not all statements are literal, many are figurative, such as this. every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during the previous inhalation could now feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. It could feel as if it was as non-graspable as if it had never been born. It could feel as if it was as non-graspable as the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although is tantalizing to the eye, is most certainly non-graspable to the hand. So there you have it. This is the key to peace. Whatever emotion or sensation of tension or fear, whatever thought or memory or fantasy reinforcing our fear and our anxiety can be released. In fact, it's desired to be released. We don't have to force it. We just have to allow it. But what about balance? A delightful fringe benefit of meditation is that our choices and our utterances and our deeds begin flowing, not out of fear, not out of desire, but from a place of centered spontaneity. When I was a kid, I used to watch Kung Fu theater on Saturday afternoons. How about you? One of the things we'd see typically is we'd see the young journeyman kung fu guy, and he'd be working really hard, and he'd be schwitzing, he'd be sweating, and he'd be concentrating, he'd be snarling like a badass. But if he fought a master, the master would be totally laid back. When the journeyman would block, he'd block with his whole body. When the master would block, they would do just the minimum amount of effort. Maybe they wouldn't block, maybe they just sidestep and slip the punch. That's centered spontaneity. And although most of us aren't kung fu masters, we can apply this to every area of our life. Or actually, we can stand back and watch as as this is automatically applied to every area of our life. Kung Fu. Keanu Reeves was recently interviewed by, I forgot who, I think it was what's his face? Stephen Colbert. And he said, hey man, it's been 20 years since the first Matrix movie. How do you, actually, but more than 20 years, closer to 25 years, how do you keep doing Kung Fu? And he says, basically, you got to find more efficient ways of doing it. And that's the truth. So what a master might lack in speed, strength, and endurance, they surpass in subtlety and expertise and nuance. We don't have to find Aladdin's lamp. We don't have to scratch lotto tickets. We can be lucky simply by going with the flow. We might call that being in the zone. We might call that flowing with the Tao. We might call that dancing with the Dharmakaya. But it is a fringe benefit of a healthy meditation practice. Meditate for at least 5 minutes, once every 12 hours or so, and you will see greater peace, and you will find a balance that is automatic. You will find yourself spontaneously making subtle adjustments to your life. Not out of fear, not out of guilt, not because you're shooting all over yourself. These changes will be effortless and even pleasurable. This path is not flashy. The Wachowski siblings are not going to make a slow-mo sequence of you and I meditating. But it is the cornucopia of real and lasting change. I think it could be great fun if together as a team we chanted the Wednesday morning excerpt of the total space of Vajrasattva. Please remember that at any time during this morning's live stream, if you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, and their application or their application, simply type your question in the chat window and for God's sakes, press the send icon. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there and stare at you like a cat who wants a snacky. Together. Space is beyond the arising of thought, and thought itself is like space. Space. That which we use to describe both the infinity of the objects perceived during inhalation and the non-graspability experienced during exhalation cannot be controlled by the mind. Let's make that bold. Let's go to the left and hit backspace. Together. Without attachment from space dedication, one's grade manifests as space. Ironically, noticing the dreads and desires and then releasing them hastens the profoundly abundant manifestation of the protection and acquisition we crave. Thought-free equality is the Dharmakaya mastery of awareness and letting go. Like the moon's reflection in water, it cannot be grasped. The freedom endorsed is not freedom from the literal presence of thoughts, but rather from their figurative tyranny. Together. Through the energy manifestation of Samantha Bandara, the Ali Kali or vowels or consonants are profoundly displayed. Through the odd and the beautiful ta, the paw and the emanated branches, in the sphere of experience of the whole world, the profound voice of the Buddha arises. Although there is a correlation between energy and sound, as we shall see in a later passage, it is not an end run around the Buddhist path of being vulnerable, passive, visceral, and spontaneous. Wonderful the sphere of experience of the Buddhas is not a place to be found by searching. This liberation is the fruit not of the effort of concentration, but of the ease of passively noticing and relaxing, in harmony with our inhalation and exhalation. Together. And like the phenomena of the six senses, it is also not an object we should grasp after. Those who search for it are like the blind reaching for the sky. This is a double figure of speech, exploring first the impossibility of the blind seeing the sky, as well as the impossibility of anyone successfully grasping a handful of sky. Thus exemplifying the ludicrousness of indulging our controlling tendencies. Boy, I tell you, I was very, very controlling. I once had one of my Vietnamese teachers used to scold me saying, "Ah, you're so greedy for enlightenment." That was me. I look forward to meditating with you, but first, let's sample less than a minute, about 45 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I've spent more than half my life, 8 hours a day, studying, practicing, and then reverse engineering the teachings, techniques, and practices of each school of Buddhism so that I could play the Yoda to your Luke Skywalker. So that you could easily and quickly become the person that your dog already thinks you are. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For our final two brief pre-meditation chants, we're going to work with the recitation of empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge. Now, these are not prayers to real or imagined celestial entities. We are simply using words to exercise our loving and enthusiastic intentions. Together. May I liberate... Take two. This is supposed to be... I was supposed to use the book... Not the book, but the triplet chant. Let's try this again. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee. Buddha's example, instructions, and students. This highlighted bit has been found to be so useful through the ages that it's earned the metaphoric nickname of the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels. In this, our final pre-meditation chant, is going to be more concise and more figurative, and we're going to apply this recitation. We're going to apply the bookended chant to this recitation. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. We've already explored the technique of mindfulness and meditation. So now, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as Obi-Wan Kenobi upon the toasty sands of Tatooine under the guidance of the Force ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. We're going to shift gears from the 12-syllable exercises to the 3-syllable counterparts. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite and notice this, and during our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite relaxing. Our job is not to repress our perceptions or mental functions. When we notice something going on, we're to harness it and use it as a source of dynamic, as a force. So for instance, if we can notice that we're having an imaginary a conversation in our head with an imaginary person, we can we can harness that force by silently and mentally reciting the 3-syllable word cognition. If we are enjoying a flight of fancy during our inhalation, we can silently and mentally recite the label imagine. If we feel physical pain or physical pleasure as we sit, we can silently and mentally recite the label sensation. If we begin to notice an environmental noise, we could silently and mentally recite resonance. You'll notice these labels are 3 syllables each. And of course, we can switch gears to the 1-syllable version. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym for relax. We'll replace the word recall with the word then, and the word imagine with the word dream. We'll replace physical sensation with the word form and emotional sensation with the word feel. In various translations of the Shastra we chanted previously this morning, it mentions sufferings as just being energy. And that's a wonderful metaphor for the fact that when we embrace the present moment, pleasurable or painful, it becomes a powerhouse driving our meditation. As someone who has many chronic illnesses, fatigue has always been an issue. So imagine my delight when I learned that by embracing the present moment, whether it's ugly or beautiful, that in and of itself is a power pack. I'd like to respond to a question. Good morning, Lama. I am a disabled person, and whenever I notice pain, I have been concentrating on my parasympathetic nervous system. With each exhalation, the pain actually subsides. It's amazing that. Is there any more? Oh, thank you. You're utterly welcome. So I'd like to explore this with you and help you take this. So this is good. You're doing good. I want to help you take it to the next level, if that's okay. Number one, try to replace the word concentrate with notice, because your brain listens. And if you say, I'm going to concentrate, it doesn't say, okay, let's concentrate. That's a different part. So we want to notice. Remember, concentration is active, and noticing can be, our type of noticing is vulnerable and passive and visceral and random. Number two, it sounds like you're falling into, you're beginning to orbit the event horizon of a black hole, metaphoric black hole that a lot of people fall into. A lot of people, you're not alone. And it's the black hole, or the trap, or the bear trap of emphasizing the parasympathetic over the sympathetic. Emphasizing exhalation rather than inhalation. Emphasizing letting go rather than noticing. So here's the thing. We need them both. I love birds. Birds are beautiful, and they get to fly, which is amazing. But I've never seen a one-winged bird take to the sky. Because quite simply, if you ask an aeronautical engineer, they'll tell you, you need 2 wings. A bird needs 2 wings to fly. Similarly, we need both awareness and release. And it's really scary and really uncomfortable to be vulnerable to the perceptions of pain. I'm not going to lie to you and say pain is in your head. Bullshit. Pain's in your body. It's real. It's not a flaw. It's a feature. We evolved the ability to perceive pain so that we could live long enough to pass on our genetic material. That is how evolution works. So I'm not going to lie to you and say, pain's awesome. Woohoo. Pain sucks. That's why it's called pain. But the irony is that by noticing it, it benefits us. Even by playing with a monosyllabic label, it benefits us. The more vulnerable we are to that pain, the more it can energize our practice of release. It's weird. It might even sound masochistic. I assure you, I'm not masochistic. My people do not suffer silently. We whine and bitch and piss and moan. We even have a special word for it, fetch. As a kid, with all my disabilities, I would lament to my mother, and she'd say, suffer in silence. So, I'm not going to lie to you and say, I'm robust. I've never experienced a moment's displeasure in my life. Everything is orgasmic. Malarkey. I've experienced the full spectrum of human experience, and I'm sure you have too, from the dizzying heights to the abysmal lows. So our job is this: whatever we notice. So there's a phrase, I think it's in the book of Ecclesiastes, whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your heart. Well, in other words, so when we notice with great vulnerability. When we release with great enthusiasm. Use both our contemplative wings, and you will find that you will progress even further and even faster than you already have. By the way, please don't feel bad. This mistake is so common that the great South Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna had a write about it. And he wrote about the two truths of the conventional and the ultimate. And he taught that they were both necessary. So you're not the lone gopher. Everyone struggles with this. We're all hedonistic. We all want an easy fix for life's suckiness. Please don't feel bad. You've done nothing wrong. What you're experiencing is par for the course. I assure you, I'm a big fat coward. Mm-hmm. I don't like pain. I don't like emotional pain. I don't like circumstantial pain. I don't like physical pain. Not at all. Not even a little bit. But the more vulnerable I am to my perceptions, the more profound my release is during the exhalation. It's so weird, but it is consistently observable. Welcome to this morning's live stream. If you want the lesson, just drag your indicator bar all the way to the left. If you want to just jump in now, that's fine. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, just type your question in great detail in the chat window and, of course, click the send button. Simply put, the key to mindfulness is during each inhalation to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. The easiest way to do that is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. The key to meditation is to physically relax and mentally release in harmony with each exhalation. And the easiest way to facilitate that is during each exhalation to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, which functions as a synonym for relax. One of my teachers was learning how to was working towards his aircraft license, pilot's license. That's it. He'd already completed his simulator training, and he was now training in a Cessna. So there he was in a Cessna with two pilot seats, one for the instructor, one for the student. And they ascend to cruising altitude. And then invariably in the life of every aviation student, there comes the point when they stall out. They lose upward lift. They begin hurtling towards the all too solid earth below. And in his terror, my teacher pulled back on the yoke and worsened the crash. His teacher tapped him on the hand, tapped him on the knuckle just to get his attention, told him to push the yoke forward, which is completely counterintuitive. Like a drowning man might claw at the water in an effort, perhaps even vain, to ascend to the surface. Similarly, a pilot, even a student pilot, will intuitively pull away from a crash. But the teacher insisted, so they pushed the yokes forward, and it stabilized the crash. And then pretty soon they were able, as the air passed over the stabilized wings, they were able to restore lift and gently pull the nose back up and escape the stall. And that applies directly to meditation. We've been taught by teachers, some malicious and some just lazy-minded, that meditation is supposed to be nothing but wall-to-wall rapturous bliss, all the time, bliss on tap. And that's typically the malarkey of someone who is trying to set their students up for failure so they can drive their students into a hyper-suggestible state and then further exploit them. Nice guys, huh? So, when we meditate, we get to experience the full spectrum of human experience. The pleasure to the pain and all points in between. Interest, boredom, everything. We get to experience the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. We get to experience it all. And we get to transcend it all, and we get to benefit from it all. That is one of the great ironies of the quick path. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 and a third hours, I would very much like to return to lead tonight's evening meditation class and group practice. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.